for taking time to join us on this conversation. We trust it will be impactful and it will be as brief as possible, as well as conversational as much as possible. So at this point, I'll just allow my manager, my head, to just give us a brief welcome address, and then we'll just go straight into the study. Thank you. Mr. Dara, please, over to you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to a fruitful discussion. And I feel discussion is very important because at CTH, we are very focused around driving India access, particularly around mobility. So it's very good for us to have a very principal EVs to know the cost implications vis-a-vis the ICE vehicles. So I believe discussion is very important. And the report that was developed by David and the team is very, very important for any discussions. I look forward to receiving feedbacks, full discussion, mobility in Nigeria and Africa together. So now that I welcome you all to this wonderful webinar. I look forward to fruitful discussions and to the feedback we'll be getting as well, and to see how we can work together to push the e-mobility adoption in Nigeria in general. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dara. Thank you for that brief welcome address. So without further ado, we'll just dive right into the presentation. So like we know, 2023, when the president declared that fuel subsidies were no longer going to be part of what government offers to the citizens. I mean, we saw how fuel prices jumped basically from about 185 naira per liter to over 100 and 1,280 around April, May, early this year. And the truth is, after all of these changes, it's obvious that there was a need to basically find an alternative that was more economical. And I mean, we've seen the stories with CNG, and we've also seen what stakeholders are doing around EVs. And for me, it's also an opportunity to say congratulations to the ecosystem. If you take time to observe what we have in Africa today, we notice that the EV ecosystem is basically being developed by private stakeholders and entrepreneurs who are basically de-risking the sector. And now we have incentives from the government, which is a good thing. But then these incentives are basically coming to just meet what is on ground already and just make things a lot easier. But then we're not seeing the government really pushing the drive and the changes and the development. And so in all of this, we decided to come together and come up with a total cost of ownership study that is actually based on data, not probably speculations or assumptions. And then we have very little data about EV economics, right? And so we just try to do a lot of depth research, triangulate our data, and then see how we come up with figures that give context to what we're trying to do. And so basically, the question that we're trying to ask is to see if EVs make economic sense, not just for Nigerians, but then for even EV operators in general. All right, so we'll just dive in. Again, sorry, please, next slide, Sutimi. All right, thank you. So for this study, basically, the guiding questions were, or the critical questions or the central questions we're trying to answer was if EVs already make financial sense for Nigeria operators today. I mean, if they do, right, would want to see, and if not, then when exactly does this make sense? And so we had to rely on four guiding questions. The first was, what is the total cost of ownership for electric vehicles over 5 years horizon? This is both for ICE and EVs. And then at what point does the EV break even against petrol equivalent? And then which segments are already EV favorable as of mid 2026, mid 2026. And then finally, how do fuel escalation, forex volatility, and then grid access change the outcome? And all of this is just a summary of the fact that, in as much as we know, I mean, it's no brainer that EVs are more economical, but then there are a lot of factors that we are seeing already in play. We're looking at mileage, we're looking at high upfront cost. How does all of this play into the total cost of ownership for EVs? And that's what we're trying to find out. All right, so we had principles to guide the research. Most importantly, like I said, this was entirely a desk research. We had to triangulate and source data that were available, that we could access, and we just tried to ensure that we had something solid all the way. So for the study, it covers uh, Nigerians' four dominant mobility segments. So we're looking at two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and then for four-wheelers, we're looking at both private cars and commercial cars uh, use cases. The whole study covered a 5 year horizon, basically 60 months. And as at when we started this study, fuel price was at 1,280 naira per liter. And so we use that as our base fuel price cost. And so guiding principles were basically the Nigerian first framing. Uh, all costs, all analysis were in the Nigerian naira. And then we had the USD equivalent of 1,450 across all segments for our comparability. And then all data were triangulated. So we made sure that whatever figures or materials or inputs or data that we're using for this study was across different sources. And then considering specific Nigerian specific factors and adjustments, we had to consider what would be the case if they were using generator to charge or to power EVs. And then what tropical battery degradation that would happen over 5 years. And informal operator cost for the commercial segment. And then we also had three scenarios for the study. So we had the base, we had an optimistic, and then we had pessimistic assumptions. And so we had to add fuel price escalation for all these separate scenarios. All right, so around the methodology and statistical framework, so regarding the data that we had to triangulate, so we had four different tier for data sources. The first tier comprised of the official primary sources, so maybe global, CBN exchange rates. So we had a lot of we were able to use some data from SGX Mobility and both pilot program. So we had some figures which helped inform the study that we do or the study that we carried out. So these are primary part of the primary sources. We also had secondary sources and then credible journalism sources and then market proxies. So we also had to triangulate to get certain prices of e-commerce websites and sales websites that were available. And so what we did was first defined segments, and then we collected data for the segments, and then we computed the 5-year cost, and then we did our scenario analysis, checked out for our break even, and then our total cost of ownership over all segments. And for the formula, we considered using a deterministic model where we basically have a couple of costs and then see how we basically have something that is more encompassing. And so the formula that we used was the total cost of acquisition plus the summation of the energy cost over the time T, so over a 5-year period, the maintenance cost, insurance cost, registration cost, informal costs, and then we have Nigerian specific adjustments, and then all of this minus residual sales value after 5 years or at the end of 5 years. And so this was the model that we used for all segments. And so you're looking at the energy key cost components. So for energy, we had to use a 15% per year price escalation base for fuel. We've seen how fuel has changed, the cost of fuel has changed over the last 3 years. It will not make any sense to have this analysis and not make room for potential changes in fuel prices. And so the choice to maintain a 15% per annum for EVs between 2023, June 2023 and May 2026, we've seen approximately petrol prices record a compound annual growth rate of approximately, I think, 32 to 34% between this time frame. And so we decided to pick the 15 base case just to represent a moderate forward-looking assumption. And then we also had to apply the same escalation factor for battery swap, especially for 2 and 3 wheelers. For grid charge, we used grid charge mostly for the analysis when it comes to 4 wheelers, and that's because we didn't have any sources of data for solar charge for EVs at the time of the study. So we just used what was obtainable. And so for the 4 wheelers, we maintained a band A tariff cost, while for battery swap, we had to come up with the 15% producer price index. And what we tried to do was just make a space for operational costs, maybe including labor, maintenance, land, probably imported battery components that would be factors when you're looking at battery swap stations. All right, so for the 2 wheelers, after our analysis, over a period of 5 years, you'll be saving about 30.5% of cost. So it's basically 30% way cheaper than the ICE alternative for EVs. And regardless of the purchased cost, the high upfront cost, you'll be able to break even in 14 months. And first, this is the fastest paying payback segment of that we studied, majorly because of very high mileage. So because you have high mileage, the high mileage basically helps break capex for 2 wheelers. And so across our different scenarios, assuming a pessimistic scenario where probably fuel prices are at, let's say, maybe 1.5, you break even in 16 months, and then our base case, like we said, 14 months. But then an optimistic scenario where probably fuel prices are at 1,100, you break even quicker. And what this means from what we've studied or what we've seen is that for two-wheelers, EVs basically uh, are winning across all scenarios. So regardless of if it is a pessimistic or a base case or optimistic scenario, right, our EVs are going to break even, and they break even quicker. So approximately 14 months, be able to break even for two-wheelers. And what the line chart is showing, so the red line is representing so EV basically. Sorry, I think there's a mistake in the color legend. However, the green line is representing EVs, while the red line is representing the ICE alternatives. And you notice as time goes on for the commercial two-wheeler, you're spending more, you're spending more. However, EVs obviously are giving you better uh, return on your investment. It makes more economical sense. All right, for three-wheelers as well. So for three-wheelers, we used a so CBN's monetary policy rate is about, I think, 26.5% per annum. And what we did was we applied this uh, monetary policy rate for calculations, considering the fact that a lot of three-wheelers are more of lease-to-own payment structure. And so we decided to incorporate this. So a 26.5% that equity would be given or would basically would be the cost of acquisition, and then it will be spread over time until the operator is able to pay off. And so it makes acquisition much lower. You won't have to pay that high upfront cost, especially if you're using a lease to own a model for three-wheelers. You won't have to pay that high upfront cost, right? So applying a 26.5 monetary policy rate on the net present value of the tricycles, we notice that you're breaking faster, or you're breaking even faster with the tricycles, basically. And what we've seen is that for electric tricycles, EVs win decisively. So there's no even unnecessary stress about, okay, oh, how much are you going to break even? You're breaking decisively. This is basically the strongest segment for the EV case. And across all three scenarios as well, we could see that in 5 years, electric vehicles, electric three-wheelers basically would break even in the first 5 years across all scenarios. So we're seeing that EV is basically uh, favorable for three-wheelers, regardless of whatever the factors are basically. Right, next slide, please. All right. So for four-wheelers commercial ride hailing, um, what we noticed is you're going to be able to save 35% 0.8 of cost when you're switching to four-wheelers for commercial ride hailing purposes, saving you about 18.5 or 18.6 million naira over a 5 year period. And then you're able to break even regardless of the cost over a 21 month period. It's 1 month period or horizon or timeline. And for the study so far, the four-wheelers for commercial ride hailing or commercial cases is probably the strongest income transformation case. Basically, we're seeing EV win across all board, regardless of the scenarios playing out. And we also notice that once you have high mileage or there's high mileage used for commercial ride hailing, you're breaking even faster, and you're making quite a lot. So across all scenarios as well, EV is also winning. So here we have a strong case for electric mobility, and you're going to break even approximately 21 months period of time. All right. So for me, this is obviously the part I didn't expect. So for four-wheelers, for private use, uh, over a period of 5 years, you're not going to break even, right? And what we did was tried what is obtainable in Nigeria. We know that Nigerian automobile market, basically, we have more of used cars. We have Nigerians going for used uh, ICE vehicles more. And then we try to use what is obtainable, right, for the average man. And so we ran this across a Tokumbo Corolla against the cheapest EV we're able to see online, EV cost that we're able to see online, which was the BYD Dolphin. So if you're going for a Tokumbo Corolla against an electric vehicle, a new BYD Dolphin, you won't be able to break even in 5 years' time. But then because of the results that we got, we decided to increase uh, the timeline. So if you're going to consider a total cost of ownership over 7 years, EV wins by a large margin, right? But then if it is in 5 years, we're not seeing that break even using the model that we've used across all segments. And also, I want to say for the four-wheelers, private cars, we the assumed average uh, mileage for a year basically was 20,000 kilometers. And then for the commercial use case, we're looking at 70,000 kilometers upward. But then we basically came to the conclusion or the assumption that considering the fact that private cars are for private use, you won't have them running at so much mileage on a daily basis. So we just pegged it at 20,000 kilometers annually, and sticking to the mileage of 20,000 kilometers annually against other factors, cost, maintenance, uh, energy costs, basically, and Nigerian specific adjustments and all. We are seeing that you won't break even over the course of 5 years. And so we decided to use a different scenario approach for this particular segment. And so we had the base case, like I said, which was a used Tokumbo against a BYD Dolphin, which was the cheapest EV that we saw online. EV was not breaking even, and so we decided to check what if we're using a new or a close to a new Corolla against the BYD Dolphin, for example. So let's assume we're getting a Corolla for around 18 million naira. At this point, even if you're maintaining your annual kilometer of 20,000 kilometers per year, an EV is going to win. So the disadvantage we've seen from our base case is as long as we're going to maintain the status quo or a used Tokumbo across or against a brand new BYD, which most people who have private cars or who are going for private EVs would likely want to go for a brand new against a used. And we barely have a used EV market in Nigeria that would probably be the go-to for almost every private user. So that was why we use that as our base case. And then if we're seeing that there's an increase in mileage, let's assume both the Tokumbo and the new BYD is covering a 35 kilometer and 35,000 kilometer annually. The EV wins decisively as well. So you're going to break even in approximately 50 and 52 months. And then when there's no grid, when you're not using the grid to charge or you're not using solar, or you just decide to stick to using our generators, you're not going to break even because you're basically still transferring petroleum cost uh, into your operations, into your OPEX. And like I said, if you're going to expand the timeline or the horizon to 7 years, we're saying that EV wins decisively as well. So in approximately 6 years, sorry, the EV breaks even. And then a situation where we now see scenario F, which is they're accessible EVs. So we're having EVs that are cheaper. The cost of higher upfront cost is cheaper, right? We see that EV also wins decisively. This was the results that we got for four-wheelers. And so basically, the verdict was a used or a Tokumbo ICE Corolla is not economical when compared to a new BYD Dolphin, especially over a 5 year period of time. And I also want to mention that factors that account for the results, especially for the base case, is that the high upfront cost and the low mileage is what increases the cost for or the situation where you can't break even for a private a car. And then cross segment synthesis for two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and four-wheelers for commercial use. You could see that over a 5 year period of time, you'll be saving significantly. But then for a private car, you won't be saving as much. ICE vehicle is still economical, specifically for a used Tokumbo Corolla against a new BYD Dolphin. And like I said, majorly because of the high upfront cost and the low mileage, which are factors that would always play out for private car users compared to the commercial segments where you're having high mileage. And so that high mileage basically becomes favorable for EV owners over time. And so, just a summary of where EV already wins, like we said, for commercial use cases. So, commercial two-wheelers, the confidence is high based on the factors that we've considered, based on the model we've used as well. So, confidence for this is high, as well as you're using logistics or delivery. EV also wins. Uh, if you're using a tricycle and you're using a least own model as well, EV is also winning for uh, a tricycle that would probably use a generator, maybe the grid. You're not going to break even. This is almost not going to happen. And then for ride-hailing drivers, so if you have solar on mini grid, you're also going to break even. But then the confidence is medium. And like I said, we didn't have access to any uh, solar powered charging cost for electric vehicles. And so again, for private car owners, when you have new against new, EV wins. But then if it is a Tokumbo car, which is what we see in Nigeria more often, and then a BYD, which is mostly brand new, EV will not break even in 5 years. All right. So critical factors and our overall finding, like I said, so high mileage is basically an advantage for electric vehicles. So electric vehicles economy is improved basically with every kilometer that is traveled. So the higher the mileage on that car, the higher or the harder EV wins. Basically gives EV that opportunity to bridge uh, that capex initially. And then also another determinant of EV economics basically is the energy source, right? So the energy source determines the large extent how economical our EVs are over time for operators or for the citizens. And then what we also noticed was the forex depreciation. So we noticed that forex is affecting both EVs and ICE vehicles, especially for the fact that they are imported. Most of the components are imported. Uh, However, EVs are basically priced in the energy sources or electricity sources are basically priced in naira. And so what this does is it helps if we break faster, unlike ICE vehicles that the cost is not just on imports, right? So you're also exposed to fuel price fluctuation as well. And so it basically for the foreign exchange basically favors EVs uh, on the long term, right? While it's a disadvantage for ICE vehicle considering how all the associated costs are basically. And then finally, from our results as well, I think commercial segments are basically where adoption should basically happen, right? And for 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 we, it's basically telling us that policies and infrastructure investments should basically be focused on the commercial cases. So when we're having policies, these policies should not just uh, be policies that, I mean, basically they should be targeted towards commercial segments to ensure that there's faster adoption, and it also makes economical sense for Nigerians in the long run. All right. Thank you. I hope you guys were not bored, and I hope it was exciting for you guys as it was for me as well. So this is where we come to the end. And so quickly, I want us to just have our speakers react to this conversation. For everyone on the call, you have the opportunity to also ask questions. So if you have questions, just hold up. We want our speakers to react, and then after their reactions, I also get to hear from you as well. So I would like to first and foremost introduce Mr. Ahmad Amsida. Uh, Mr. Ahmad is probably one of the pioneering EV investors. Okay, I think Dr. Sam is raising his hand. Yeah, please, sir, you can go on. Dr. Sam. Dr. Sam, can you hear me? So I don't know if you're speaking. You're speaking. I'm muted. We can't hear you. All right. So while uh, we wait for Dr. Sam, I'll just continue. So Mr. Ahmad Damsia is
Okay.
the co-founder.
Hello.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Yes. Yeah. So it's set. It's set to. You guys have to unmute me. Excellent presentation. Excellent study and excellent approach to the comps and calculations. This is something quickly I want to mention that this is part of what we've been dealing with as manufacturers in Nigeria. There's just no basis to compare the used car and the new car model. If you are an importer of used EVs, you are basically importing gray market vehicles without after sales service, without warranty, even without parts. I know many OEMs that you're not going to be able to have access to parts, period, unless you're partnered with the OEM. So this is something, a conundrum we've had because what we have is a new vehicle. So there is generally no basis to now compare this to maybe a used Corolla or used Camry, so that skews the data. But I think once you publish this, it will be important to put obvious notes there where the different comparisons work. And I'm talking specifically in the four-wheeler market. Also, our interactions with the policymakers is raising some serious concerns. There is a very high chance that importation of used vehicles that are electric vehicles will be seriously curtailed in the very near future for the simple reason that, say, a basic EV that BYD or even say our smallest public product, the NAMI box, NAMI O1, the replacement of those batteries without warranty is 25 to 35 million naira. So you can imagine if you've gone to the gray market, import a vehicle without warranty, once if you have a battery issue, that's basically the end of that vehicle. Now, granted, worldwide, less than 2% of newer vehicle EV batteries are giving problems. But that does not immunize you against problems of uh, battery discharge imbalance, which is something that people don't even understand at all. So you can have a perfectly functioning EV that needs to go in service because we need to rebalance the battery. Your roadside mechanic or your roadside EV guy or somebody that sells you an EV, that walks away does not even have a clue. All you know is my EV stops working. So this is a big, huge issue. And so I wanted to just quickly mention this. I did leave a message in the chat for anybody who is interested to read. This is a significant issue. How do we guarantee the state of a battery imported into the country so that the innocent Nigerians don't buy an EV and within a short period, they can't use that EV? There are terrible things we are seeing already. So I left the chart there so that I don't take up your time, but these are significant issues. And it may be that the policy makers may have to say you have to prove that this car has warranty, has after sales service, has support and parts before you are allowed to sell an EV in the country. So these are some of the issues that are going to belie cost that we need to I see my older brother is clapping there. Maybe he can also comment on this. Thank you so much. Excellent study, excellent presentation, as usual from Clean Technology Hub. That's why I'm in the US. I woke up early deliberately to make sure I don't miss this. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. We're really, really grateful, and we're also excited to have you on this webinar and also have your reaction. Well, like you said, it's high time that we just move beyond standards for electric vehicles, but then also have standards that are directed towards the used market. If not, we're likely going to see the same thing happening with used ICE vehicles in Nigeria. Thank you so much. So I'll just go straight to giving the first speaker the opportunity to react to our findings. Mr. Ahmad Adamshida, who is the co-founder and principal at Full Technologies. He has over 20 years experience spanning energy, transportation, mining, agro-allied processing, project finance, and he previously served as the CEO of Energy Culture Limited for 10 years and has been involved in over 50 projects across energy infrastructure, transportation system, and EV deployment. Mr. Ahmad, we're really excited to have you, and we want you to give your feedback and reaction to the findings. Majorly, we know that our Full-Tie runs a charging infrastructure, after-sales service support, as well as a ride-hailing. So a lot of what we did, like I said, was completely deck research, and then we had to triangulate a lot of our results and findings across several sources just to be sure that we have something concrete. But then you are on the field. This is basically the experience for you every single day. We want to see what your reactions are overall, the findings. How do they resonate with your experience as well? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Dr. Sam, I'm the younger one. I'm the younger one. You're not younger than me. So Dr. Sam said a lot of wonderful things, and I think I'll just build on the back of what he said. So first and foremost, the basis for setting a baseline to compute the total cost of ownership has been made clear. However, the comparison should not be with an old vehicle. The Toyota Corolla, comparing the BYD Seagull or Sea Lion with the old Corolla doesn't compare apples to apples. What I think we should look at is first, you compare brand new Voyage with maybe Camry or some other Toyota or the ICE counterpart in that region. And then you will see how the savings materialize. Now, um, outside the savings from OPEX, there is even the greater saving, which is the fact that you do not need to go into that market where, for example, your part replacements, right, are almost uh, all the time substandard in the market. So with an EV, you don't have that. The parts are directly from the OEM to the franchisee or the distributor, right? You cannot just go to Ladipo and buy an EV part. It's not possible. It's not possible. Because here, a lot of things we see are that people who use the ICE are able to go and buy second life spare parts, right? That second life spare part risk is so high that you don't know what you're buying. You don't even know what you're buying. You know, they say, oh, the part is Tokumba. Now, it is no more in a car because that car, they didn't find it suitable. And that's why it was removed, right? So we need to stress on that in addition. The power angle. A lot of vehicles, especially in our fleet. So in our fleet, we only admit brand new vehicles, and they have the manufacturer's warranties. A lot of them, what we've noticed is that if you go for the long range vehicles, you're able to save more on the charging. So the additional capacity of the battery that adds to the additional cost of the vehicle is ultimately cheaper than the continuous charging or rapid charging in terms of frequency, twice, thrice a week. We have a car now in the fleet, the Aquos Caula. If it charges on Monday, it operates as a VIP rental. It doesn't charge again till probably Saturday, right? Same with the Wuling Bingo Plus units. If you charge on Monday, you only come back on Wednesday. Because the range is attractive, right? All above 400, and that shows that you are not going to be spending money without planning. Because if you look at the guy who owns a Camry, going to the fuel station, today you go a different price, tomorrow you go a different price, in the morning there's a different price, at night it's a different price, and so on. So comparing them like this, and this is looking at your A, versus B, for example. Right? If you say the Toyota Corolla is 21.06 million and the Dolphin is 22.7 million, right? The Dolphin might not be the candidate that you would put side by side with the Corolla, right? You should start to look at the other vehicles. The Toyota Corolla, put it with the Wuling Bingo, with the Toyota Corolla side by side, running. I think the Bingo would beat the Corolla because even the OPEX will be lower, right? 20,000 kilometers per annum. It's a lot of coverage, and that should show you that the Bingo will be lower, right? If you look at also the D, where you say no greed, right? So no greed, generator only. And now this is not feasible, right? This is not feasible. If you utilize generator only, it's also going to affect you, right? Because you are using almost a very expensive fuel to power the generator to now charge the car. So there is a net or a negative position you're creating there. So I think you should look at it from the angle where there is a renewable component, right? Augmenting the generator, and then do a hybrid, right? Based on the grid access. It will help you come up with a number that isn't here yet. So that hybrid option is also good. Um, the charging of the vehicles at a charge station today, the charge stations centrally do 500 naira per kilowatt hour, right? Um, and
Right.
by I think in 2 months now, we should have the first LNG powered EV charging station where it will just be LNG as natural gas firing station, and that should give you at least 250 to 300 kilowatt hour as the charge value. So you should look at introducing some of these. It will be helpful in the long run. Now, I think we are also not looking at the fact that the uh, lack of strong policy enforcement, and Doctor mentioned it, which is the fact that people just bring EVs, dump them on others without any after sales, without anything. I mean, last month, last year, the guys at CFA was saying, we've told them anybody who comes in with a BYD to Nigeria is on his own. We are not fixing it. If you want us to fix it, it's simple. You give us a 10 million naira deposit. That's the only way, because we can't go out there, get a franchise, come with all the warranty provisions, and you want to go and buy a vehicle that is not the global version. So if you want to buy a BYD part, go back to China where you bought your car to bring the part. This was what Luxia stated clearly, and I don't blame them. It's very basic. So our lease to own businesses product, which now has a lot of the corporates on. I think we have think about 5 or 6 of these corporates on the lease to own, right, with large volumes. If you look at that product, what it has done is the corporates are saying any day our vehicles encounter any fault, we just call you and get a replacement vehicle. If you don't provide a replacement vehicle, we would deduct from the lease payment due to you what it will cost us to get another vehicle to use, plus an inconvenience, uh, what you call penalty. So it means that we must always have on standby a replacement vehicle and also the technicians to fix anything that goes wrong. Nothing has happened yet, but we have this, we've been keeping this as a cost. This is the sort of thing that the government should look at enforcing, where if you don't have the right warranties, there's no point allowing you to come in to the country with these vehicles. Used, there is no problem having a used EV, right? Fine, but why don't you, in having the used EV, register them locally for evaluation? Because a lot of people buy these EVs without understanding that their batteries have been swapped. They've been switched. Doctor talked about the power imbalance, and that comes from the battery. The cells are not uniform in terms of the power capacity. You don't know, right? Because the guy who has sold it to you brought it and polished it, and everything is looking nice, and the technology is looking fanciful, but the functionality in a year or two will start happening. And this is why we have now started to invest in something called end of life vehicles. If you go to Alado, we already have a very large facility there. We are trying to um, work with others to develop. It's an end of life facility where the vehicles are taken as they are and put into a crusher to shred them completely so that we can commercialize the components within them. Right? And this is every vehicle, ICE, EVs, anything else. Right? And this is very important because in a few years, all of these used EVs that don't have warranties would be around everywhere. And guess what? The efforts of the government would now be seen as zero because some people have brought in those used EVs that are substandard and so on, and filled up the market with. The doctor was very clever to have gotten a major OEM to partner with from day one, which is the game. You have to shield yourself and ensure that the quality of what you're producing is supported or backed by a very reliable party. But a lot of other people don't have this sort of thing, and it's dangerous. So, lastly, if I think you should look at adding to this report um, the option for or the flexibility around usage. So, if you look at the Toyota Corollas, they go to one of the fuel stations with a low quality grade fuel and buy petrol. The next thing they have injector problems, the next thing they have fuel pump problems, the tanks become dirty, and all of that. Right? This is very clear. It happens. You see it right before your eyes. For the EVs, they don't encounter this because the EVs are built with internal filtration systems that protect them from power surge in most cases, right? Secondly, they are also built in a manner that almost insulates their battery pack from whatever negative power that is supplied into the system. So I think these are some of the things that you need to look at. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that insightful feedback. Uh, Again, we're really grateful to have you on the call and also reacting to what you said, also what Dr. Sam has said earlier. Um, whilst we started the conversation, I made mention of the fact that uh, what we've seen with Nigeria and the African market in general is we've seen stakeholders and investors like what we have currently in the EV ecosystem basically take the risk and push and then come up with products and try to make this transition to cleaner mobility a reality for the citizens. And what we expect from government is since most government policies are coming in and incentives are coming in to support what is already going on, they should be more intentional. And it's also important that they carry stakeholders who are already taking this risk and putting all of the efforts to come up with policies that not just uh, create conducive environment, but also the risk and also ensure that what we are having, we're not going to make mistakes with the transition journey. We've also tried to reach out to the Senate several times, especially since the EV bill passed second reading, to try and engage with them and also see how we bring stakeholders together and see that we have policies that are basically directed towards some of these challenges and points that you've mentioned. We've not really gotten anything from them. We'll keep trying, but again, thank you so much, sir, for shedding light and for also giving us a lot of feedback and reaction to the study. We'll definitely go back and include some of these feedback and corrections. Thank you so much, sir. I'll just move to the next speaker who will be reacting, Mr. Olufemi, who is the general manager for XGX Mobility with over 25 years of experience, spanning banking, financial services, business operations, corporate strategy. He has held several roles, leadership roles at Stanbic. He served as the chief operating officer as well at Fort Bridge Limited. And he expertise basically includes strategic leadership, operations management, digital transformation, business development, management, stakeholder engagement. For we, it's important to have XGS mobility on this conversation, considering the fact that a lot of what we did with the three wheelers, a lot of the number, the data, the figures were a rip-off of some of the news uh, conference or news release from their pilot project with Bolt in Lagos. So for us, it's really exciting to have Mr. Olufemi, who is General Manager of XGS Mobility. Mr. Femi, thank you so much for also joining us on the call. Please, the floor is yours. We need your reactions, your feedback, and your take on the study so far.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, thank you, David. Thank you for everyone that has spoken. Thank you, Dr. Sam. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. And I just cannot but agree with what Dr. Sam said about just bringing in a vehicle. One of the things you want to do as an investor or as someone that is interested in putting in some investment, and I'm going somewhere here, putting in some investment in electric mobility, you want to ensure that you are looking at the entire ecosystem. Just like Dr. Sam said, you cannot just bring in vehicles, whether even brand new or Tokumbo, and think that, electric vehicles operate, we will just get somewhere you can charge them, and that's it. No, there are a lot of things that are imbibed in electric mobility. And if you're not looking at working in electric mobility, investing in electric mobility in an ecosystem solution provider, then you would be making a huge mistake. Now, I'm happy that Dr. Sam and Mr. Med spoke into your analysis on the four-wheeler. I will be just guiding us into some of the analysis on the two and three wheelers, which I totally agree with a lot of what you have analyzed. Your return on investment on the two wheeler is fast. You can do that in 14, 15 months. Your return on investment, if you're doing drive to own on the three wheelers, because those ones are mostly commercial. You can do that in 13 months. So as a fleet owner, if you're selling the two-wheeler or the three-wheeler electric mobilities, it is very likely in terms of selling, outright selling, it is very likely you have your return on investment in 18 months, which is very good. And the good thing about the ecosystem that I mentioned is that as a dealer or as a franchise to selling the two or three wheelers, one of the things you should consider is looking at what we do, a swap station, whereby your riders, your end users can come and also swap their tricycles at your location. So it is very essential that we take this as an holistic solution in these spaces, in the two and three wheeler spaces, and say, if I'm going to invest, it's not just for me to bring in tricycles into the country or have a dealership with somebody from abroad on bringing in tricycles into the country. It is, what is the solution that I am providing? How am I even able to provide solution for the tricycles that I brought in, because it will need power. Now, talking about electricity, I'll go straight to electricity because that's what you need to charge your two and three wheelers. It is also very good to invest in the solar power system. Yes, your return on investment may be longer, But I can assure you, given our experience, and David, you know that you've seen this, given our experience in this space, in investing in a solar system to manage your swap stations is a lot better than you looking at generator. It's even the rainy season, but we're still using PACN, we're still using solar to power our swapping station. So for me, infrastructure, when you're investing in this system, given what you're talking about, it is very key that your investment should look at the at an ecosystem solution. A lot of people talk about it being expensive, to initially invest in. Let me also ask a question: Is it not expensive to invest in a petrol station? The person that invests in a petrol station invests in properties, invest in underground tanks, invest in pumping machine, but he also doesn't get his money back immediately. He gets his money. In fact, the portion he gets from his money is based on the fact that people come on a daily basis, and he earns his money from petrol products that he sells. So it's the same thing. But the good thing about this is that you would get your return on investment faster, and you would actually be earning a higher rate than if you decided to go into into the ICE business. That is just the fact. It's been established here that going into electric mobility is way, way, way more economical, is more on return on investment, basically. So I would quickly just address the government part of it, and which I think Dr. Sam and Mr. Med, really made some justifications for. It is very important that this sector is highly regulated in such a way that people that want to invest in this sector have to have certain guidelines, have to have certain requirements for them to do so, or else we will flood the market with unusable EVs. We will flood the market with mobilities that can't be used at all. Let me give you a very good example. A week ago, someone that is into the three-wheeler came into our office and said he's having a challenge in swapping in swapping his batteries, that his equipment has challenges. Can we help? And in my head, I'm like, you're a competitor. You want me to help you to bring you back to business? I gave him some few pointers on what he needed to do. But you see, that is what we will face if we flood the market with just anybody getting into the business. And that is why it's very key, from what Dr. Sam said, that it is very important that we regulate this system. We're still taking baby steps as far as they're concerned. But don't let us grow into where it can no longer be controlled, and people would now have a dissatisfaction in electric mobility than him having the satisfaction that they're supposed to get from electric mobility. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olufemi. We're really excited to also get your feedback and also your reaction to the study as well. We're really excited, and like I said, we're grateful. Uh, just re-emphasizing what you said, if we don't get it right, basically, when it comes to policies and standards and ensuring our compliance, at the end of the day, would likely see a negative image for electric vehicles. And just echoing what Mr. Amma said, with some of these issues that are popping up already, it would likely put a negative uh, effects or picture to what the government is trying to do if they don't decide to focus on some of these challenges and also engage with stakeholders. Thank you so much, sir. Really excited and thank you for your feedback. I'll just go straight to the last speaker we have on the call, Mr. Koyi Alaba, who is the director of the off-grid transaction advisory at Max Group. Mr. Koyi has a decade of experience in clean energy and energy access sectors, specializing in project financing, development, transaction advisory, investment readiness support, financial modeling, market research, analysis, uh, fund design. He's a licensed project manager, project management professional, and who's you've seen the results represented.
Thank you, David. Please, can you confirm that you can hear me very well?
Can you hear me?
Hi, David. Hello, David. Can you hear me well?
The rest of us can hear you, even if David can't. So maybe just go ahead.
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Thank you so much, David, and your team for the great work that you've done with this study. I would just like to join the other panelists to say big kudos. So at Greenmax, we did a similar study covering the two-wheeler market back in 2024 under the Get Invest Market Insights program. And so I know firsthand the amount of work that you have had to put into this. So a good big kudos and applause to you and the team. So and your findings align also with the results of the study that we also did then, and of course with the removal of the fuel subsidies, the results are even better than what we had. But I just want to point out a couple of observations on our side based on our review of the pre-read version that you shared. So I'll make this very quick, and I'm going to be going into the weeds a bit more than the other panelists did. So first of all, your assumptions for the scenarios. So I think you need to take a closer look at the linkage between the utilization of the electric vehicles and the swapping costs, right? So for instance, in the two-wheeler segments, for the pessimistic case, you assumed swapping cost of 2,500 naira per day for 120 kilometers. But for optimistic case, you assumed 1,800 for swapping. Meanwhile, you're covering more distance of 180 kilometers, right? So, I mean, I understand that perhaps the price per swap is reducing based on pessimistic base case and optimistic, but you need to also factor in the fact that if you're going a longer distance, then you would need to swap batteries more, right? So for instance, Zoom E, their typical battery range is about 70 kilometers. So the rider doing 180 kilometers will probably have to swap 3 times. Meanwhile, the base case or the pessimistic case would have to swap only 2 times, right? So I think you need to link that together. The same thing for the three-wheelers, right? So, you're assuming 8,000 swapping for 220 kilometers, but for 280 kilometers, you're assuming 5,000 swapping cost per day. So, I think you need to just take a closer look at that. Then secondly, the distance covered per day. I think perhaps you have more data, but from what we've seen, I think the distances that you've assumed seem to be a bit too aggressive. So, for instance, the three-wheelers, you're assuming they're covering about 250 to 280 kilometers per day. So in comparison, there was, another study by RMI, back in 2022, which based on data collected, assumed 100 kilometers covered by tricycles. But again, this may be based on actual data that you got, perhaps from SGX. But I think maybe you want to vary the scenarios a bit more, right? The 250 kilometer to 280 kilometers is too close for scenarios, right? So you can maybe the pessimistic case assume even less distances covered. Similarly for the two-wheelers as well, right? So our own study, for instance, we assumed 100 kilometers, but here you are assuming 120 to 180 kilometers per day. So, which would impact the figure. I mean the savings. It's like you also realize it's the one of the most critical factors that determines the amount of savings, because the longer you go on ice, the more fuel you would need, the more maintenance cost you would incur. So the savings is directly proportional to the distance covered. So then thirdly, so I noted that you assume that the swapping cost would also escalate annually at 15%. But you then assume that electricity costs will stay stagnant. So meanwhile, fuel prices increasing also. So I think for to have an apples to apples comparison, it may be useful to include some level of escalation in electricity price as well, given that with new generation capacity coming on, it's likely that for instance, the band-aid pricing over the next 5 years there will be a little uptick. That's likely. So um, I would suggest including some level of escalation. I mean, of course, it shouldn't be up to 15%, but there should be some level of escalation for electricity price. And the other observation is similar to the other speakers. So I think you're assuming 100% grid charging to charge the batteries. So I think it will also perhaps enrich the study if you can have hybrid. So hybrid of grid with solar, or hybrid, and then another scenario including hybrid of solar with generator, right? So yeah, which mirrors a bit more realistically the current situation, because I know in a few places you may be able to have the grid 100% of the time for the charging, but it would also enrich the study to have some hybrid. And then in the commercial car analysis, we noted that the cost of solar is assumed to be lower than grid electricity. So yeah, so I'm not sure what your underlying assumptions are there. So you're assuming that solar is cheaper than the band electricity. So maybe you want to also take a closer look at that. And yeah, so I think just to save time, those are some of our observations. And generally, of course, in terms of how to improve the study, I think the data would be strengthened if beyond desk study, you're able to, have in subsequent versions, of course, have actual interviews with operators on the ground to get actual on the ground data. Yeah, but of course, I understand that in the current version, there may be limitations. So you have focused only on desk research. Yeah, so those are some of our reactions on our side. But again, overall, it's a great work, and this type of data is really critical to drive to attract investment into the space, right? So we're looking forward to seeing the study published, and it's a type of study that also needs to be updated because the market realities will keep changing, right? So so looking forward to seeing even more versions of it as time progresses, and we'll, on our side at Greymax would also be happy to contribute. Thank you very much. Over to you, David.
All right. Thank you so much, Sokoye. Thank you as well for also bringing finance perspective. There's so much that you said that I would have to go back and work on and see how we incorporate all of that into the study. Thank you so much for your time. We are almost basically almost done. But then we want to give just two slots, two opportunities to stakeholders who are present to probably ask questions or react. And then we'll just close. I have my CEO on the call, Ms. Ife. So if we just have two reactions, Ms. Ife will just close us out with her feedback and her speech. So if you just have any comments, just please raise up your hand. Any comments?
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I can't raise my hand yet, but I'd like to make a comment on what the last speaker said. So it's very correct. The pricing needs to be reviewed. It's not so the pricing needs to be reviewed. It's not a I mean, your pricing is not correct. Let me just put it that way. Basically, you need to do a bit of research on your pricing going forward. Then another thing I would like to say, because of the kind of fast changes happening in the EV space, your research needs to, at every point in time in doing your research, you need to look at upgrade improvements, because what we have in all the three spaces in EV as our 2020, I say 2023, all of it has changed. There are new dynamics, there are new things, there are new charging dynamics, basically. So you need to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Femi. Would also put that on the table. We'll see that we have this as an annual report closely with actual data from. Thank you so much. Can we get one more reaction or maybe any question before we close out? All right. I believe there's no response or any reaction for that.
Actually, I
So I'd
have
like
a
to invite
question,
Ms.
David. I have a
All right,
question, and this is to, I think, Dr. Sam. I think he mentioned it when he was speaking, or maybe the person who spoke after him. So I wondered what the role of SON is in all of these things around creating standards. The thing is that we're running a market, right? It's like in electronics, people are bringing in all sorts of electronics. They have different grades. So it's depending on what your pocketbook can afford. Yes, we don't want substandard goods, but is that the job of the ecosystem or is that the job of government? And how then do we help government in creating the standards that can allow for people to bring in proper goods and also then make it up? Because affordability is part of the reason why a lot of different grades of two-wheelers and three-wheelers are imported from China, right? When they look at the purchasing power of Nigerians and they say, oh, the kind of two and three-wheelers that we have in India and that we have in some of the other Asian countries are quite different from the ones that end up in African markets. It's not a Nigerian problem alone, but I'm just sort of trying to think about how we maintain a free market and at the same time creating standards and at the same time creating affordability. Is it realistic to expect all three, or what are the trade-offs that we have to be thinking about considering where we are right now in the ecosystem?
Okay.
And anybody can answer. I can see Ahmed and Co also on the call, so anyone can answer.
Okay, this is Dr. Sam. Can you, Samfale Wisagle? So, a number of things. First of all, the EV ecosystem is new. At the end of the day, it's new. So there are a lot of things developing in the background. SON is only just now catching up. So they are doing a few things, but we are collaborating with them to educate them on the type of things they need to look for. This issue of battery is something that we are just going to have to start educating them, because batteries are so expensive. The cost of replacement of a battery can entirely be more than what you paid for a used EV. So that's one issue. VERCAP, if you are aware, has been introduced. That is where you have to do pre-shipment inspection of a vehicle before it is shipped. Incidentally, they introduced it. It wasn't ready to go now. The vehicles are entering without this inspection. Again, another issue of where we are very good at making policy, very bad at implementing them. So VERCAP is supposed to address this, where you're supposed to inspect the vehicle, get a sign-off from some specified agents of SON, and then import the vehicle. Unfortunately, that whole setup is not even working at this point. But the issue we have is that they did not account for EVs versus ICE. So we still have to collaborate with them to say, okay, look, the biggest issues on this car is you have to guarantee the state of health of the battery. You have to make sure there's after-sales support. You have to make sure that if this poor citizen who went to China to buy the car, how is he going to get his parts? So those parts, we're still kind of even just educating them on why that is important. So again, there are advantages. There was a pivot towards gas. By our collaboration and working with them, the federal government, I believe they were humble enough to realize, oh my God, we need to improve EV. And that was clearly demonstrated by changing the PCNG name to PCNG I and EV. So, we're in the early part, we're working with them. Yes, it is the role of Sun. There are just so many, they're just actually just now developing the standards for EV. A lot of them are going to be adopted from Europe, from China. But again, another thing I need to quickly mention so I don't take too much time. As you know, 95% of EVs that show up in Nigeria are going to come from Asia, primarily China. So why are we thinking about even adopting other or creating a Nigerian standard? That standard is going to be pretty much landed on us by the population, by the buying public, by the market. So these are all the certain issues. We're early. Clean Technology Hub should be aware that these issues are there and engage with SON, engage with government, engage with customs, engage with the special assistant to the president on energy, their office, so that, but this is early. A lot of these issues are now just showing up. Unfortunately, a lot of people, due to the work some of us have done, have now woken up to this EVs thing are there, and the removal of fuel subsidy. I'm going to stop here, but these are some of the issues. This is early. I think CTA should just take note of this, collaborate, and let's work with them. But the standards are behind where the actual market is. That's just a summary. Thank you so much.
I would also like to take off from where Dr. Sam, while I was talking, I gave an example of an importer that imported some electric tricycles and is coming to meet us to give him some leadway on how to address his challenges. These are the kind of things that would happen when we have a flock of electric mobilities in the country, and they just don't fit. They are not perfect fit for the Nigerian dynamics, and we see it in all industry. I mean, you import something because it works in China, you bring it down here, it doesn't work because of peculiarity of our economy, because of peculiarity of the situation of things in the country. It is when we have people that collaborate with government agencies that put a standard in place. That is when we can be rest assured that even when you import chokumbo, even when you buy from China, let there be some requirements that you need to meet before these things come in. Even if you're buying it cheaper, it's not a problem. But the problem is when you bring it in and it's not usable. The battery size, the battery worth of what you're using in Nigeria is not compared to what you can use in China. Those are the things that we that have invested in research in the EV space before we even brought out our product. Those are things we found out earlier. So it is not trying to say, don't bring it in because this is what you can afford and it doesn't meet this thing. It is a case of ensuring that what you bring in actually meets the standards at the end of the day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Olufemi, and thank you so much, Dr. Sam, for your responses. At this point, I'll just introduce Ms. AP to just give an overall a farewell speech. Thank you, ma'am.
No, I just want to say thank you to all of our speakers for showing up and for their insights, ideas, and contributions. I mean, when we started looking at the EV sector sometime in 2021, 2022 at Cleantech Hub, it was just the NADDC that was really talking about EV at the time. It was not something that had become mainstream. But between that time and now, we have seen several incursions into the EV space. Some of you have been in the trenches driving EV for 10 years. Now we see that it's a conversation that has gone mainstream. The other day I was speaking to somebody from Suzuki who were looking at who's looking at Nigerian markets and are looking at the two-wheelers and possibly three-wheelers. I mean, this is a global brand that has decided that, India and Africa are their next frontier markets. And part of the reason why is because of the kind of robust ecosystem that we have built. And the fact that they know that sometimes mobility shouldn't just be about who has the money, that some of these other types of mobility is able to unlock bigger opportunities, both for production and for development. So for those of you who are really, really in the thick of it, we thank you for all of your hard work. We see you. We continue to profile you and talk about your work in rooms that we get into. And then I want to also say thank you to David and the team who have been working tirelessly behind the scenes on so many other initiatives that will roll out very soon on the EV space. And for all of you, the rest of you who were able to make it and be part of this conversation, thank you. Cleantech Hub will continue to champion a lot of the work going on in the EV space and see how we can continue to support the work that you do and the work that the ecosystem is building. Have a blessed day, everyone. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much, Ms. Efu, for that. And also to everyone who was able to take time out of their busy schedule. Appreciate your presence. And I also would like to especially thank our speakers. These are very busy people with so much going on for them, but they also took time to go over some of the documents we shared with them and also give their feedback. Mr. Ahmad, thank you so much for joining the call. And how he would also find a way to see that he's present. So we're really grateful. So Lufemi, thank you so much. The time was short, but you still turned up, and your feedback are basically part of those things that would inform what we do going forward. We're grateful. Mr. Koye, thank you so much. The fact that you've done this before and that some of our findings also align, it also gives us the moral boost to keep going, and also the suggestion of saying that this is an annual project as well. We are also very grateful. Thank you so much, sir. And also, Dr. Sam, thank you so much, sir. You're always coming through when we need you. You're always sharing ideas and also saying that you contribute. We're really grateful. Thank you so much, sir. So just before we leave, I would just want to ask if it is possible that we all put up our camera, so we'll just take a group photograph and then we call it a day. Thank you. Please, if you can hear me, just put up your camera so that we'll just take a group photo and then we'll call it today. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you so much to everyone. Please have a lovely day. Enjoy your weekend as well. Thank you.